So with that, our keynote speaker for tonight. Tonight's keynote speaker was elected to the State House in 2022. Feels like you've been there a long time. Doing a lot of good stuff. And since then, he has been a man on a mission to not only represent his district, but he's trying to reform Lansing. State Representative Jim DeSana is not afraid to point out the corruption that permeates our government, whether the office holders are Democrat or Republican. He recently called for impeachment of Attorney General Dana Nessel, and last week called for the resignation of Republican Minority Leader Speaker Matt Hall upon the disclosure of domestic abuse, which he lied about to his fellow representatives. Jim DeSana is not afraid to air the dirty laundry in public in an effort to disinfect the problem with the light of public awareness and get the reform that is needed to restore the Constitution Republic to the principles exposed by our founding fathers. And in addition to that, I thank you for Cow Friday, and I'll let you tell people a little bit about that when you get up here. So please give a warm welcome to our Representative Jim DeSana.
Thank you, Annette. Thank you for having me tonight. My district is District 29, and I noticed that what's up here, so I don't have to name all the cities for you. If you fly into Detroit Metro Airport from the north, you fly over my district. If you fly in from the south, you fly over my district. And if you fly in from the south, you fly over my farm. Like I said, I was elected in 2022. My wife and I have 8 children. We have 4 boys and 4 girls. So we're living proof that the world is 50-50. And we're expecting our 16th grandchild in May. So, I spent 36 years in the fastener industry, working for a downriver fastener manufacturer, mostly in the automotive industry, so my career was not in politics. And I really had thought about it, but it wasn't really easy to enter into politics when you have children, especially children in Catholic school, and you're going to take a chance at maybe stepping away from your job, run for office, and just have a 2-year job security. So in 2022, the opportunity presented itself. Redistricting kind of presented the opportunity to me. My district was drawn for the Democrats. This is not going to sound very humble, but I was the only one to defeat a Democrat incumbent in the state legislature that year. He was a 2-term incumbent, and the city of Taylor is 60% of my district, and the highest a Republican had ever gotten in Taylor was 30%. Any state legislative candidate had ever gotten 30%. So we knew going into it what we needed to get out of Taylor. I needed to win 45% of Taylor. And because we knew that Monroe County would be 60, my township would be in the 60s. My township I won was 66% of the vote, but it's lightly populated, right? The major part of the population is Taylor, so we knew. So on election night I came back and I was at the polls, I was getting the results, and I told my mom and dad, I said I won. And they're like, ooh, be careful. You know, these things happen late at night where people thought they were winning, and it was kind of funny because the Detroit News, they're so smart, right? They did not know that we had Wayne and Monroe County, so they said 100% reporting, and I was down by 1,000 votes, so they called the race for Alex Garza. And people were like, you lost. I'm like, no, I did not lose. And then the News Herald, my own hometown newspaper, called it for Alex Garza too. And you'll laugh when I tell you this, but I called my clerk in Monroe County. I said, your results are coming in slow. She goes, congratulations. I said, she goes, you won. She goes, you killed him. You won by 2,000 votes in Monroe County. She goes, I saw how much you were down by. And so I made a few phone calls, and then I heard the next morning that my opponent said he thought there was some voter fraud in Monroe County.
Of course.
So we have a farm called the Shamrock Station. We have sheep, we have cows, we have Pyrenean mountain dogs, we have chickens. My wife has now taken on the full-time farming with me in Lansing 3 days a week, so God bless her for all of the things that she does for me to be able to do this and for me to be able to be here tonight. We do Cow Friday. It's just a happy way of ending the week, and cows are always happy as long as they have water and hay. So if only people were like that, right? Just to tell you a little bit, you know, people always say, why did you run for office? Well, in 2020, my son Joe had won a national championship on a junior 8 at Orchard Lake St. Mary's rowing, and a great accomplishment to win a national championship in rowing. It's not easy. And coming into his senior year, they were the number 2 ranked rowing team in the country behind Cleveland St. Ignatius. So I'm thinking it's gonna get exciting. We're gonna be going to the nationals again, and we're gonna row against St. Ignatius, and we're gonna have a chance to win a national championship. Then all this craziness started, and you know, I said, Joe, your sport is not part of the MHSAA. I don't think they'll shut your sport down. Besides, it's outside. And then everything started shutting down, and we started getting more and more uneasy about what was going to happen. And it didn't help that Ohio was also shutting down to a large degree, just like Michigan was. So, of course, then we heard that the National Rowing Association was not going to do nationals. There wasn't going to be Midwest in Ohio because Ohio said they weren't going to host them with COVID. And so Joe lost his entire season of rowing. And I know we all lost a lot. A lot of people lost in that sport. Kids who lost their life. He lost his last 3 months of high school. And they just said, go home. They didn't finish their classes. Honestly, it was just like, that's it, school year's over. So I was really upset. I called my state rep and I said, Joe, you have to stop this. You have to stop this craziness that you guys are the legislature. He goes, we got a bad Supreme Court. We can't do anything. I said, you know, the State Department of Health can't do this on their own. They're not elected. We elect you to determine. And he said the Supreme Court's gonna demand that we go along with their ruling. So I said, I've got to run for office because this is not right. You know, the legislature controls, we are the people's body. The legislature controls the funding, and the state does not have the right to tell somebody that they can't go to church on Sunday, that they can't go to the beach, they can't go to the restaurant. I said, this is wrong. I said, I can't believe more of us, if we would have all stood up and said, no, we're not abiding by this, I think it would have ended right there. So, you know, in addition to all that happened, we can see obviously this is a worldwide march towards socialism. It's obvious. Anybody who doesn't see it is just not paying attention. It's a collectivist movement. It's for sure collectivist in every way. Many of you, I don't have to go deep into this because many of you have been at some of the urban homesteading conferences. Agenda 2030 from the UN, if you just study it. So, all of my conservative values really have been formed by my Catholic faith. And it all started, for me, I knew that things were going to get pretty interesting, but I didn't know they were going to get interesting on day one. So we go in to have a speaker vote. And my leader says that he's going to second the nomination of Joe Tate, the Democrat speaker. I thought about that. I'm like, well, this is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I got up in caucus and said, I do not intend on voting for Speaker Tate in the speaker vote. And there was dead silence in the room. And so I just sat back down. I just wanted to make sure they knew I was going to do that when we went out on the floor. So I was immediately met by two staffers, who said, don't do it. Don't do it. You're going to be labeled as a racist. And everybody who knows me knows. I said, people who know me know I'm not a racist. I said, my kids went to Orchard Lake St. Mary's. It's 1/3 African American kids. We've had African American kids live at our house, host family. So another staffer comes up and says, they'll take your committees, they could take your staff, they could unseat you, there's a lot of things they could do. Don't do it. He's like, don't do it. And so I didn't waver, and I texted my 7 or 8 friends that I knew coming in. I said, I hope I'm not going to be the only one. And I got 6 or 7 texts back said, you won't be the only one. So I lost my committees, which was no great loss. They stacked the committees anyway. The committees are a joke. They've got them stacked like 9 to 4, 10 to 6. They don't have any problem getting legislation through the committees, trust me. So I am a member of the Michigan Freedom Caucus. We are a small group. We've been attacked quite severely by our own party, but we're standing strong. And you know, you can look me up on Rescue and everything else. I think I've got one of the 5 or 6 most conservative voting records. And what I'll tell you is I am in a 50-50 district, so there's no guarantee that I'm coming back. I'm hoping I'm back for another term, but there's no guarantee. Some of the things I'll tell you, and I've got a little thing I want to read to you about Lansing at some point, but I am I'm involved in, I'm a litigant, I'm a plaintiff in the usurpation lawsuit on Proposal 2. For those of you that know about it, we are suing the state in federal court that Proposal 2 was unconstitutional on its face. The U.S. Constitution says that the state legislature, and only the state legislature, can control the time, manner, and place of elections. They can't give that to an elected body. They can't, a referendum can't take that authority away from us. There was a way we could have given it away ourselves if we would have initiated the referendum, but it wasn't done that way. So Proposal 2 was done wrong from the get-go. And so we're working to, that case is working its way through the courts. We're hoping that it hits before the election because it will change a lot of things. But it could take longer. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. As we mentioned, I am one of 10. I introduced the articles of impeachment against Dana Nessel, and I have 9 co-sponsors. I won't go deep in the weeds on Dana Nessel, but you guys all read it's amazing. It's just that's absolutely amazing. The Muskegon voter applications, if you just read about that, it'll blow your mind. And people say, oh, there's no fraud in the election. I've introduced several bills. One in my hometown of Wyandotte, they put a cell tower on a school, so I've got a bill saying no cell phone towers on schools. I introduced a bill to reduce senior citizens 65 and over property taxes by 50%. I introduced a vaccine freedom bill based on Utah, the state of Utah, which is the gold standard for vaccine freedom. Can't ask, can't require, can't discriminate on employment, can't discriminate on education, can't do anything regarding vaccines. I've introduced a bill to make us a part-time legislature. I don't want to be there any longer than I need to. And I'll explain this a little deeper later, but I've introduced a bill that would only allow a state legislator to fire a staff member, not anyone else. And I'll tell you how that is used. I mean, we all hire staff that we like. We hire these young men and young women, and we go through a process, and then they say, well, they'll fire your staff. And you look and you're like, I don't want my staff to get fired. So a lot of people temper their behavior and their criticisms based on the threat of always losing your staff. And even we've had Pete Hoekstra come into our caucus. We've had Lisa McLean come into our caucus. And when I posed the question, I said, do you know that they can fire our staff? And they threaten to fire our staff if we don't conform. And they're like, I never knew that. So it is not well known. That is not a well-known thing. And I have something I want to read to you. And then, of course, we protested in Vicksburg, Michigan. We have a young father who is suing on behalf of his daughter. His daughter was in the restroom. and a man came into male came into the restroom, and she was alarmed, and the girls stopped using the girls' public restroom, and the school would not honor him using a lockable restroom. They said he could keep coming into the restroom, so he's suing a civil rights lawsuit on behalf of his daughter, but we've got a problematic issue with Elliot Larson, and so we've really got difficulty there. But I was out at the Vicksburg protest and ironically, I asked my leader, which it's in his district, if he would lead the protest or show up at the protest. He didn't want to have anything to do with it. So we've got a lot of problems in our society, and a lot of battles to fight. I feel like I became a legislator and just really became a protester.
A peaceful one.
Right. So let me read you this. This is kind of directed more at a political insider, but it will give you an idea of where we're at, and it will also help frame the question for you when you look at why legislators like me, there have to be more, because our history and our legacy is not good right now. So I say, if at this point in time you haven't gotten a true sense that there is something deeply wrong with our state and our state legislature and the way it is operating, then I have to conclude you are either looking the other way or you are part of the corrupt system. From the speaker vote and the punishment of those who voted against the speaker, to the constant threat of losing your entire staff, to being threatened with losing your legislative allotment, which is your $130,000 they give you. The system is ripe for controlling members and dissuading them from true reform. When you look at the legacy of our Republican leadership, it is a shameful legacy of brushes with the law, investigations, and convictions. From Speaker Rick Johnson to Speaker Lee Chatfield to Speaker Jason Wentworth. The Dems now have total control of our state to a large degree because of the failures of the Republican members of the House to root out corruption and reform itself into a body fighting for less government and more freedom. The corporate elites and oligarchs don't want this system to be done away with, for they have benefited tremendously from the corruption in this system. This system is propped up by the government money these corporate elites have been given by our state and federal government, and the income they have gained from the friendly laws the corrupt system has passed on their behalf. Their political donations and dark money is well spent on pliable individuals who will readily conform and help to elect as leaders the kinds of politicians who are open for business and will help to protect this corrupt system from being completely dismantled. Here are the systemic political structures that help prop up the corrupt system. Number one is a corporate welfare system in the billions of dollars that works to ensure future giveaways from the legislature, and thus the political campaign donation flowing back to keep the system alive. I mean, how many of you followed the Goshen and cattle in Marshall? Cattle was 1.8 billion. Goshen was about half that, but billions of dollars. Number two is a horribly corrupt practice of controlling legislative staffers and threatening to withhold legislative office holder dollar amounts based on free speech and or lack of compliance within the corrupt system. I mean, we're witnessing that with one of your reps right now. His right to free speech, social media, and they just took away his staff. They took away his money. And this is done to threaten legislators, guys. Whether you agree with what somebody says on social media or not, they are trying to censor and control free speech. Number three is an earmark system that creates pork barrel spending for those who have signed into the corrupt system and will vote for these expenditures. I'm not going to get any of these expenditures in my district. In fact, if you look at the lobby dollars on the most recent report, mine is a zero. I have zero money spent of dinners, drinks. They have to report whenever they buy you more than $50 worth of dinner and drinks. Mine is zero. Several of my Freedom Caucus members are right in that same region, but you see that there's a lot of schmoozing in Lansing, trust me. Number four is the nature of our full-time legislature and the backdoor dealing that places moneyed special interest groups above the interests of the people and of working families and taxpayers. Number 5 is the cooperation of mainstream media outlets who have very little interest in exposing these corrupt practices. They benefit from it too. Number 6 is the leadership structure in both parties that ostracizes, threatens, and excludes idealistic members who come to Lansing to try to reform the system. And number 7 is a severely gerrymandered districting system set up under the guise of independence, but is truly rigged to minimize constitutional conservatism, as evidenced by the fact that 6 to 7 of our most conservative districts in the state are represented by very liberal Republicans based on their voting records. That's all you can really look at. I don't know how many of you know that, if Obamacare is struck down at the federal level, if the Supreme Court finally comes to their senses and said, no, the Constitution doesn't say you have to buy health care. Michigan has it because we voted for Obamacare, and we had 16, 17, 18 Republicans voting on every one of those bills. It was really frustrating. Number 8 is the clear evidence of an ever-increasing state government in terms of annual budget expenditures and the constant drumbeat for more revenue to pay for more government programs. These budgets have been passed by Democrats and Republicans. So our budget for next year is 81 billion, 80.7 billion. Our governor wants to have free community college. I'm like, are the professors working for free? Is DT Energy giving a free deal on the electricity, natural gas? It's not free. How about my son who didn't take the 2 free years? Is he gonna get a commensurate, they're gonna send him a check for $20,000? Also, free pre-K. She wants to expand free pre-K for everybody, which is, again, this is the government encroaching into private business. Daycares, preschools, cooperative nurseries. I think she hates anything that private individuals do, but that is the government coming in on something that private individuals have every capability of doing, but no, it's going to be free. And she says that each family is going to save $10,000 because now they can put their child in public school versus sending them to a cooperative nursery. There's a lot of other things in there. The way she proposes to pay for it is, first of all, the income tax cut you got, it's going back up. Dana Nessel issued her opinion that it was temporary. The law didn't say that, but we've got to elect Supreme Court justices. We've got to get conservative Supreme Court justices. That's probably the area, if you were going to say, where can I work to help? Get involved in a campaign to try to help. One of my colleagues, Andrew Fink, is running for Supreme Court justice. He's a good man. I hope he gets in. As far as I lost my train of thought there for a second. As far as when we look at these things, when we look at this in the total picture, we're going to have a few more years of Governor Whitmer. But if we can win the House in November, and I'll mention District 25. District 25 is Josh Powell, and it's a Democratic district. It's 60-40, but it's a special election, and the turnout was extremely low in the primary. Obviously, the Democrats are worried about losing it because then we'd be 55-55, which would be a disaster for them because, trust me, they are planning on doing a lot of bad things when they get back to 56-54, and lame duck's going to be even worse. There's a lot of things they want to do that you won't like. So I'm going to be door knocking for Josh. It's Westland, it's Wayne, it's a little bit of Canton. We can do some good there because if we can get just 2/3 of the Republicans to show up and vote, it's about a 7,500 to 8,000 vote threshold. If we can get that many people to come out and vote in this special election, we can win. So keep that in mind. Pray for that race. If we were able to somehow pull that off, it would spoil all their grand plans.
Can you name some of the bad plans? I mean, be specific about any of them?
They want to regulate homeschooling. They have, what is the other one? That there's more gun bills coming. You know, they want to regulate the amount of, they've passed red flag, they've passed safe storage, they've done extreme risk. They got their 4 biggest ones out, but they want to regulate magazine clip size. They want to regulate they want a ban on what they don't even know what they want to ban, but they're going to ban semi-automatic weapons, and I mean they've got a lot more. There was a list of 21 gun bills that they want to bring back, so we're going to be delving into the budget here pretty quick, and I think it's important for us Republicans to stand strong against the budget. I really do. I think we lost a few members on the last vote. They gave them things, like I was saying here, they gave them splash pads and pools and auditoriums and things like that. Things that you wouldn't think that would cause somebody to vote yes, but I know I won't. I want to leave it there, though. I think I hit all the points I wanted to hit. And I know what I wanted to say. So you say, well, Jim, how does this corruption work? How does it really work against you? Well, give me an example. So when I went to Wyandotte and T-Mobile was putting this tower on this school, I went to all my colleagues and I said, hey, this is wrong. We should not be putting cell towers on schools. The RF radiation is bad. It should be out. They should be away from residences and away from schools. Well, you know, Verizon, T-Mobile, they give to both parties. They give to both parties, so I could only get about 9 or 10 members to co-sign my bill. So that's how it works. The money that's given, I mean, how many, when you watch the Super Bowl, did you notice the advertisers? T-Mobile, Verizon, Progressive, they're all the big corporations. If you don't know that COVID was a corporate takeover of America and small businesses suffered the most, you know what's going on. So I'd like to leave it open for questions now.
Yeah, we've got just about probably 2 or 3 questions.
You got it.
That'd be great.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned the Supreme Court, I didn't get his name.
Andrew Fink. Andrew Fink, yep. He's our state rep from Hillsdale.
No, I thought you said something was a Sahara, not Sahara, but, okay.
Brian Zara got elected. He's in. He got elected last term. He's good for
So who's the one we want to pray for and vote for?
Andrew Fink. Mhm.
Any others?
Pardon?
Any others?
He's the only one that I know that has announced.
Michael Warner, if I'm pronouncing that right, he was running for Supreme Court and he withdrew. And he's extremely good.
Andrew's the only one that I know that's announced right now. I might be, but I may not know that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the Prop 2 case that was been filed. In the Dodge decision, there are 17 instances of the phrase, the people and their elected representatives. 17 times through the primary and concurring opinions. The Prop 3 went through on a citizens' initiative. Didn't involve the representatives. So could that not be also challenged on the same basis?
There's also a lawsuit on Prop 3, and we got briefed on that about 2 weeks ago, and there is a good chance that it could be thrown out by the U.S. Supreme Court, and this is why our legislature was so hell-bent on doing away with the 1931 law and passing, changing our law to, we even have partial birth abortion now in Michigan, which we never had. It's horrifying.
One more question?
No, just generally speaking, us Republicans are doing a very bad job of holding Democrats accountable. The day that Trump got elected, he should have went after Hillary. Nobody was ever held accountable for the Russian collusion hoax.
Yep.
Biden isn't getting held accountable for his classified documents. Then there was that guy who pulled the alarm during a session of Congress.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't held accountable.
No.
And us Republicans are doing a really poor job of holding the other side accountable. Like this thing with Mayorkas. You can't get rid of him. And look what he's doing to our country. That's us, our Republicans are doing that.
Well, and thank you for that. I think the biggest failure was we never held Gretchen Whitmer accountable for all the things. Gretchen Whitmer broke the law. And Jocelyn Benson broke the law twice. And, and Dana Nessel definitely broke the law. But what people said when I introduced the articles of impeachment against Dana Nessel, they're like, what about Benson? I said, I guess we should do one for her too. She definitely broke the law. No signature verification. I'll give you an example. One of the guys on my campaign committee, Tom Heck, he's a school board member in Monroe. He says, I got an application for my daughter who's lived in California for 15 years. And he said, she hasn't lived in Michigan for 15 years. What would stop me from filling out that application, getting a ballot, filling it out, and sending it back in? I said, nothing other than honesty and the fact that it's against the law. And so I multiply that times the thousands. I had a gentleman the other day said he got 8 applications for not only the previous homeowner, but the homeowner before that. They were getting applications. So our qualified voter file is horrible. But in relation to your point, I see good things happening. And today's not all. I gave you the bad news about how bad it is, but politics by its very nature is very corrupting, right? If you get too much power and concentration of power. But the good news is people are waking up. People are starting to realize that you're lying to me. And then there's people out there that are starting to blow the whistle on what's going on. And I think that what we're seeing across Michigan is a grassroots movement, and it is organic. It's not. It's just people saying, I can get involved. I'm going to get involved, and you're seeing more and more and more of that. We eventually have got to have it translated to success on a statewide basis. But what I'm here, that's one of the reasons I was excited to come talk to you tonight, is because I know you're all so active, and you are force multipliers. Everybody in this room, and you can go out and you can find 50, 75, 100 people. I found this on my campaign. I would knock on a door, and they like, my daughter wants a sign, my son wants a sign, my mother wants a sign. Next thing you know, we had 45 votes from one door knock. So don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged if 10% is about the rate. When you're knocking doors, 10% is about the rate that you're going to get during the day. Sometimes you can do a little better in the evening. But my campaign guy who was helping me said, don't get discouraged, just keep knocking. And so that was another thing. I knocked more doors than any other Republican in the state. It was easy for me because Taylor, you go, basically you're walking down the street, it's door to door to door. But that's where I needed to be, and I knew, I was convicted of the fact that I needed to be there, and I needed to just keep knocking doors. And I'd walk up, I had that campaign sidekick that Luke mentioned, and I wanted to kick it for sure. And I would walk up to a door, it would say, weak Democrat. I'm like, okay, this may be a okay knock. And I walk up, and they're like, you a Democrat or a Republican? I said, I'm a Republican. They're like, good, because if you were a Democrat, I was going to kick you off my porch. I'm like, is this right? And I got more positive responses in Taylor from everyday working people that were so upset. You name the issue. They were upset about that with the federal government, their Second Amendment rights. And Taylor is kind of like the Bible Belt of Downriver. They were upset with where things are going with, just like you said, it's almost a battle of good versus evil, and they see it in those terms, and so it's really kind of defining itself. So I would say to you all, the battles that are out there, if we make contact with voters, if we can make contact with more voters, we will win. When I knocked in Taylor, people said, we've never had a Republican knock on our door, ever.
Oh, well, say goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you having me.
I could listen to you all day, really, but we got some other announcements. But thank you. If I could just take Representative DeSana and copy him about 100 times over, put him back in the office, I would do that. So thank you for coming here tonight and spending time with us. Greatly appreciated.